Welcome to the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast, a show all about reviewing dinosaurs on a scale of 1 to 10 fossils before only the elite terrible lizards make it into the Prehistoric Cage Match. This program is presented by the Stomp Chomp Roar Company and can be heard within all the rock layers across the planet. Grab your dinosaurs and your official scorecard because it's now time to dig for dinosaurs. Here's your Mesozoic host, Dinosaur Ranger Anthony.
Howdy, all my junior paleontologists, and welcome to the Clash of the Dinosaur Champions, Part 2! This is your prehistoric cowboy, Dinosaur Ranger Anthony, and boy do we have a show for you today on this Easter Sunday, March 31st, 2024. Now, before we get started, I want to know, are you ready to saddle up on your ceratopsian and go for a ride into the Mesozoic countryside? Well, I surely hope so, because this ultimate fatal four-way matchup is going to take us into the heart of the American Midwest. Today we are riding into the Prehistoric Yellowstone Ranch to witness the destruction of 4 massive theropods. These meat eaters, all with stellar forward-facing vision, great hearing, advanced brains, and a long tail for hunting stability, are ready to tear each other apart and become the next Undisputed Dinosauria Champion. Now, we don't have too much time for chit-chat because the ceratopsians are getting saddled up. But hey, did you go check out my dino bus? If not, you have to head over to my Facebook page. Just search Stomp Chomp Roar or the Dino Bus on Facebook to see all the excitement of my new traveling museum. Also, make sure to like my page while you're there. Let's saddle up! Did you hear that? The rancher is calling us over. It's time to jump on our ceratopsian for our prehistoric trail ride. I sure hope you brought your cowboy hat because it's time for the ultimate prehistoric cage match. It's time for the Clash of the Dinosaur Champions, Part 2. Now, before we hit the trail, remember, over the last 4 seasons, or should I say 40 episodes of the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast, I have reviewed 37 different prehistoric genus. Each time, I gave them a score of 1 out of 10 stars, aka we call them fossils. 1 fossil for some of the weakest creatures, and 10 fossils for some of the strongest creatures. Then every 10th episode, I take the top 2 scoring dinosaur genus from each season, and we let them go one-on-one inside the Prehistoric Cage Match. Then after we name 4 Prehistoric Cage Match champions from the previous 4 seasons, we let them battle in an ultimate prehistoric fatal 4-way matchup. Remember, way back on episode 40.1, the Tyrannosaurus Rex would withstand a battle between the Ankylosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, and the Utah Raptors to be named the first Undisputed Dinosauria Champion. Now, in just a moment, the next group of terrible lizards will rise up from their paddocks below, and we will witness them firsthand as we ride across the ranch for the Clash of the Dinosaur Champions, Part 2. This matchup is between the Carnotaurus, the Acrocanthosaurus, the Ichthyovenator, and the Baryonyx. Let's bring these dinosaurs up onto the prehistoric Yellowstone battlefield. Stomp Chomp Roar welcomes you to the Clash of the Dinosaur Champions, Part 2. We are live from the Stomp Chomp Roar Science Lab studios. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the ultimate prehistoric cage match. It's the Clash of the Dinosaur Champions, Part 2. It's time for the Undisputed Heavyweight Dinosauria Championship of the world. Introducing first, Fighting out of the blue corner, a fossil score of 8.4, stretching 34 feet long, 10 feet high, and weighing in at 4,800 pounds. From the early Cretaceous period, some 125 million years ago. Fighting out of the Gress Superior's formation of Laos in Southeast Asia. It's a double-sailed Spinosaurid. It's the fish hunter. It's the Ichthyovenator. Introducing its opponent, fighting out of the white corner, a fossil score of 8.4, stretching 33 feet long, 8 feet high, and weighing in at 4,400 pounds. From the early Cretaceous period, some 130 million years ago. Fighting out of the wheeled clay formation of Western Europe, it's another Spinosaurid. It's the heavy claw. It's the Baryonyx. Introducing its opponent, fighting out of the green corner, a fossil score of 8.8, stretching 30 feet long, 10 feet high, and weighing in at 4,500 pounds. From the late Cretaceous period, some 72 million years ago. Fighting out of the La Colonia formation of South America, it's the only true horned theropod. It's the meat-eating bull. It's the Carnotaurus. Introducing its opponent, fighting out of the red corner, a fossil score of 9.0, stretching 38 feet long, 13 feet high, and weighing in at 15,000 pounds. From the mid-Cretaceous period, some 113 million years ago. Fighting out of the antler formation of Oklahoma, it's a sail-backed theropod. It's the high-spined lizard. It's the Acrocanthosaurus. No disqualifications, no countouts, falls count anywhere. Let's have a fair, clean fight, touch claws, and back into your corners.
Round one, fight!
Welcome, everyone, to the Prehistoric Yellowstone Ranch. I'll be your tour guide for today. My name is Prehistoric Cowboy Anthony. Now look, it's pretty basic here. Stick with me and you'll be alright. There's one item of travel gear that can be the difference in making it back here today, and that's your safety flares. We definitely don't want to become theropod food. If anything begins charging our way, we will light up the sky like an asteroid on Extinction Day. Now, before we ride deep into the Paradise Valley, please make sure to stay up on top of your ceratopsian and stay close to the herd. I don't want to see anyone getting hurt. If you hear me yell out the word theropod, we'll quickly group together in a circular formation for safety. Now, just up ahead, we will exit the stable gates and enter into the famous Yellowstone Ranch. Let's all have a great time and make sure to keep your eyes out for those theropods. The sun shines from above as we pass through the wooden gates of the stables and begin to follow the dirt trail down into the Paradise Valley of the Prehistoric Yellowstone Ranch. Once we get deep into the valley, we will see a raging river. We'll follow this river towards the west until we reach the mountainside. Once we reach those Rocky Mountains, we'll turn back east and up Bunker Hill. This will lead us back into the open fields of the cow pens and ultimately back to the barns. Essentially, we'll be making a clockwise loop around the property. The trail also goes around a large conifer forest that grows from inside the trail loop. Well, there's only one thing left to do. Let's ride! Now hey, have you guys heard the one about the chicken that crossed the road to see the pig? Have you heard that one before? Well, you guys, the chicken crossed the road because it thought it was going to see Jurassic Pork. Get it? It's not Jurassic Park, it's Jurassic Pork Theropod! Just up ahead, walking out of the conifer forest, is the mighty 38 feet long and 13 feet high Acrocanthosaurus. This theropod, who scored a 9.0 and is believed to be the fourth largest meat-eating dinosaur, is the one we watched watched back in San Antonio as it defeated the Alamosaurus on the Dinosaur Mania episode. As this meat-eater stomps into the valley, it looks around only to see an empty battlefield. With stellar hearing, it picks up the sounds of the rushing water from the nearby river ahead. The Acrocanthosaurus begins to slowly stomp towards the raging waters of the Yellowstone's Dutton River. As we follow the Acrocanthosaurus to the riverbanks, it lowers its head and begins to drink from the crystal blue water. If only we had some rafts, then we could move this tour onto the river, just like at Universal Studios' Jurassic World River Adventure. But we'll save that for another time. Suddenly, the Acrocanthosaurus turns its head towards the conifer trees. Something coming from its S-shaped brain just doesn't seem right. Theropod! The Carnotaurus, also known as the cheetah of the Cretaceous period, quickly bursts onto the battlefield with huge strides and a speed up to 35 miles per hour. This lightly built theropod, who scored a fossil score of an 8.8, charges towards the Acrocanthosaurus with its long and sleek legs. Without very much time to react, the Acrocanthosaurus rises up and pushes its three-toed feet into the soft sediment along the riverbank as it braces for impact. The Carnotaurus strikes the body of the Acrocanthosaurus with 4,500 pounds of force. The feet of the Acrocanthosaurus slowly get pushed closer and closer to the river, but its massive strength keeps it from falling in. Both theropods begin swinging their heads at each other from left to right and right to left. Each theropod is continuously ramming their head against the other's body. The Acrocanthosaurus is much larger than the 30-foot long and 10-foot tall Carnotaurus, but this meat-eating bull is definitely living up to its name, as both dinosaurs continuously keep knocking into each other's bodies with their massive heads. Theropods! In an instant, the two Spinosaurids with their long and narrow, crocodilian-like snouts storm onto the battlefield from across the river and stomp over the shallow parts of the rocky waters. Both the Acrocanthosaurus and the Carnotaurus turn their heads towards the river as they see what appears to be the 33-foot-long, 8-foot-high Baryonyx and the 34-foot-long and 10-foot-high Ichthyovenator. As these fishtail-like Spinosaurids, who both received a fossil score of an 8.4, make it onto land, they split up around the Acrocanthosaurus and the Carnotaurus. Each Spinosaurid uses their long forearms to strike at the other theropods. The Ichthyovenator strikes at the side of the body of the Carnotaurus with its three-fingered claws as it stomps past. As for the Baryonyx, it runs up to the Acrocanthosaurus at speeds up to 25 miles per hour and tries to slash at the body of the high-spined lizard with its 12-inch thumb claws. But this Spinosaurid isn't as successful. The Acrocanthosaurus swings its long and narrow 4-foot skull and pushes the 4,400-pound Baryonyx towards the conifer trees. The Acrocanthosaurus roars into the sky before it lowers its small nasal ridged snout and charges towards the dazed Baryonyx up to only 18 miles per hour. This theropod's thigh bone, known as a femur, is longer than its shin bone, known as a tibia. This suggests it couldn't have run as quickly as the other theropods that are with us today. Simultaneously, the Ichthyovenator begins a charge towards the Acrocanthosaurus up to 25 miles per hour in order to help its Spinosaurid family member. The Ichthyovenator rams its long and narrow, 3-foot crocodilian-like skull into the body of the Acrocanthosaurus before it can reach the fallen Baryonyx. The force isn't super powerful, but it's still enough to knock the Acrocanthosaurus off balance. The high-spined lizard stumbles into the rushing waters of the Yellowstone's Dutton River. As the Acrocanthosaurus begins to get swept away from the currents of the river, both Spinosaurids turn quadrupedal and dive into the water and disappear. Suddenly, the Acrocanthosaurus begins to roar into the sky. Only the top half of its scaly skin body can be seen above the raging waters. The high-spined lizard begins slashing at the water with its three-fingered claws, hoping to fend off the water attack from these pesky Spinosaurids. It appears that the Baryonyx and the Ichthyovenator are trying to pull the Acrocanthosaurus under the water with each fast bite onto its legs. Just up ahead, a large conifer tree, just like the giant sequoias from the famous redwood forest, has fallen into the river below. The massive Acrocanthosaurus uses it to its advantage to slow down its journey in the river and back up onto the muddy coastline. Over on dry land, the Abelosaurid-type Carnotaurus watches from afar as these pesky Spinosaurids have teamed up in this prehistoric fatal four-way. Like a dart, the Carnotaurus quickly stomps back into the conifer forest with its small, almost backward-facing arms. The Carnotaurus had 4 clawless fingers on each hand, and they may have even been fused together. Everyone, let's ride over there! As the battlefield clears out, we can now move our ceratopsian herd along the river's edge and towards the Acrocanthosaurus's position. With the high-spined lizard slowly making its way onto dry land, it notices the bite marks left on its legs from the Spinosaurids. The Ichthyovenator and the Baryonyx definitely each took a bite or two onto the legs of the Acrocanthosaurus with their straight and conical-like teeth. It also appears the fallen conifer tree scraped across the side of its body. The high-spined lizard is definitely down to 60 or 70% strength at this point. As the Ichthyovenator and the Baryonyx rise up from the river's edge and back onto their bipedal stance, they begin stomping closer to the wounded Carcharodontosaurid family member known as the Acrocanthosaurus. The Spinosaurids begin to split up as they each stomp towards the side of the Acrocanthosaurus. The high-spined lizard roars into the sky as it starts to spin around, trying to use its 15,000-pound body size to its advantage. The Ichthyovenator quickly jumps over the Acrocanthosaurus' strong tail before snapping at its right thigh. Simultaneously, the Baryonyx does the same thing as it avoids a bite from the 60 to 70 sharply curved teeth from the Acrocanthosaurus. The Baryonyx reaches out and slashes at the left leg of the Acrocanthosaurus with its 3-fingered claws and 12-inch meat cleaver-like thumb claws before snapping its spoon-like front jaw and 96 conical-like teeth around its ankles. Suddenly, the Acrocanthosaurus drops down to one knee as it looks up into the Mesozoic sky. Images begin to race through its mind of the good old days, eating sauropods in the Oklahoma jungle and duckbills up in Wyoming. The Ichthyovenator spins around and charges towards the heavily wounded Acrocanthosaurus. It leaps into the air and strikes the 12-inch high neural spines on the back of the Acrocanthosaurus. These spines went down their back and tail and also may have been covered in a large rigid muscle for protection. Regardless, these spines were nothing like those from the spiny lizard known as the Spinosaurus and may have only just been used for display. No! The Acrocanthosaurus tumbles to the ground as the Ichthyovenator lunges off its back and into the air and lands on the other side. What's that? Theropod! The meat-eating bull has returned to the battlefield. The Carnotaurus suddenly lowers its head and aims for the sailless Baryonyx. As the Baryonyx tries to turn its body and its 37-inch skull towards the Carnotaurus, all it does is create a bigger bullseye for the one known as Toro from Camp Cretaceous. The Carnotaurus might be from Argentina, South America, but today the Yellowstone Ranch is its home. The Baryonyx roars into the sky for help from the Ichthyovenator as the Carnotaurus blasts into its body with its 6-inch long cone-shaped horns above its eyes. Scientists believe that these horns may have been used for display, as a weapon, or even just for interspecies budding. These horns were backed by solid bone, were somewhat vertically flattened, and were covered in keratin. Keratin is what our fingernails are made of. The keratin may have also made the horns much longer than just 6 inches. That's right! So today, the Carnotaurus now has 12-inch horns that point out to the sides like a longhorn bull. Suddenly, the neck of the Baryonyx swings backwards into the death pose before its scaly body falls to the ground. The heart of the one known as the Heavy Claw stops beating, and the eyes on each side of its small midline head crest go black. The Baryonyx, found back in 1983 and known as the first spinosaurid piscivore, has been eliminated from this contest. The Ichthyovenator roars into the sky towards the Carnotaurus and quickly leaps into the river. As it begins to swim downstream, only its wave-like double sail can be seen peeking out of the water. The Ichthyovenator's sail goes over its back before dropping down over its hips and then back up again. This sail was used for display and to help this semi-aquatic dinosaur live in its swampy environment. After the Carnotaurus pushes at the lifeless body of the Baryonyx with its powerful neck, it begins stomping over to the Acrocanthosaurus, only to see a dinosaur suffering in pain. The Spinosaurids totally created an uneven battlefield. The Carnotaurus roars into the sky before biting down on the neck of the Acrocanthosaurus with its 50 long, slender, and curved serrated teeth, only to save it from suffering any longer. The theropod found back in the early 1940s has now been eliminated. 2 theropods down, 2 theropods down. The scaly body of the Carnotaurus returns to its upright stance and looks towards our ceratopsian herd with its frontward-facing eyes before stomping back into the conifer forest. Wow! What did we just witness? That was definitely worth every penny for this prehistoric ceratopsian trail ride. Let's continue along the river's edge and make our way to the backside of the trail loop near the Rocky Mountains. As we reach the fallen bodies and soon-to-be Dutton-like graves of the 2 terrible lizards known as the Acrocanthosaurus and the Baryonyx, we can only think that soon we will be down to just 1 theropod. Which one will come out victorious? It's now the Carnotaurus versus the Ichthyovenator. But where have they gone? But hey, here's another dinosaur joke for everyone as we continue on our trail ride. We already learned why the chicken crossed the road, but why didn't the dinosaur cross the road? Do you know why the dinosaur didn't cross the road? Well, it's because there were no roads during the Mesozoic era. Don't be silly. Theropod! As we near the mountainside, we can now see the Ichthyovenator, also known as the fish hunter, emerge from the rushing waters. The lone Spinosaurid shakes off its body before stomping its paddle-like feet along the shore on the other side of the river. With each footprint left in the soft sandy sediment, the Ichthyovenator uses its good eyesight to look around for any signs of trouble. Just up ahead is a large cave carved out of the mountainside. As we ride closer, we can see a soft orange glow coming from inside. The Ichthyovenator walks into the cave and stops. Its eel-like tail is still sticking out from the entrance. Bats begin to flutter away from inside the cave and into the now sunset sky. After a moment, a large shadow rises up from the cave walls, casted by the flames of the fire. What can that be? The shadow is like nothing we've seen before. It's a sail-backed theropod. Could it be the defeated dinosaur that we knew all the way back from season number 1? Are we in the Spinosaurus den? A large roar can be heard from inside the cave, and the ichthyovenator spins around and stomps out. The ichthyovenator makes its way back across the river and up the hillside after glancing at our ceratopsian herd. What did we just witness? Could the ichthyovenator really have been speaking with the final boss? Quick, let's head up Bunker Hill before we miss any of the action. As we make it up Bunker Hill, we are met with two theropods in a stare down. The 4,800-pound ichthyovenator and the 4,500-pound Carnotaurus are now both locked in a dead stare as the ranch houses sit in the background. We couldn't have asked for a better prehistoric portrait between these two evenly matched meat eaters. Each one is waiting for the other to strike. Right now, the cow pens is peaceful. Only the sounds of nature can be heard coming from the dusk sky. But then, almost simultaneously, each theropod begins stomping towards the other. It's just like the militia from the American Revolution. Charge! As they reach one another, the ichthyovenator reaches low with its crocodilian-like snout and tries to bite at the right leg of the Carnotaurus with its up to 93 conical-like teeth. This Spinosaurid may have a weaker than average bite force, but its snap speed is superb. The Carnotaurus quickly swings its head down in defense and pushes the ichthyovenator to the right as it avoids a leg attack. The ichthyovenator spins around to face the Carnotaurus before each dinosaur begins a second charge. This time, as the dinosaurs meet once more, the Carnotaurus lowers its thin 2-foot skull and prepares to strike the ichthyovenator with its eyebrow horns. The fish hunter jumps out of the way and avoids a direct hit. Now, for the third time, each dinosaur spins around and begins another charge. This time, as the ichthyovenator reaches the Carnotaurus, it snaps its jaws at the left leg of the Carnotaurus once more. The body of the Carnotaurus swings counterclockwise as the ichthyovenator spins the Carnotaurus around. Just a few steps away is a 65-foot cliff that drops down to the river below, and the Carnotaurus is getting awfully close. The ichthyovenator then whips the Carnotaurus with its fish-like tail. For a moment, the meat-eating bull appears to be shocked. The Carnotaurus shakes its head and then roars into the sky. Just then, the Carnotaurus lowers its head and pushes the ichthyovenator backwards. The ichthyovenator tries to hold on to its ground as it digs its paddle-like feet into the earth. The fish hunter begins to scratch its 3-fingered claws and possible thumb claws into the side of the Carnotaurus. The meat-eating bull suddenly stops in its tracks to avoid the slashes from the ichthyovenator. If there's one thing all these Spinosaurids have in common, it's their robust forearms. Boom! The ichthyovenator swings its body and fish-like tail into the Carnotaurus as it stomps by before stopping just steps away from the cliff. Then suddenly, the meat-eating bull looks towards the fish hunter and begins to stomp forward as it lowers its head. As the Carnotaurus reaches the ichthyovenator, the Spinosaurid jumps to the left. No! The Carnotaurus stomps past the ichthyovenator, only to be met with the ledge of the cliff. The sediment under the Carnotaurus begins to crumble down into the river below. It's gonna fall in! Watch out! The Carnotaurus barely manages to move off the cliff's edge and regains its composure for the moment. The Carnotaurus takes 2 stomps forward and lowers its head towards the ichthyovenator, who is now about 10 yards away from the cliff. The Carnotaurus charges forward and slams into the body of the exhausted ichthyovenator. Both of these theropods have been through so much today. The fish hunter tries to spin around, but suddenly the Carnotaurus swings its head and strikes the ichthyovenator again with its narrow pancake-like skull. The ichthyovenator roars into the sky and spins around, whipping the Carnotaurus with its fish-like tail once more. Quick, let's move this ceratopsian herd closer to the action. This battle is almost over. The Carnotaurus, with one more burst of adrenaline, charges at the Ichthyovenator. Boom! The Carnotaurus strikes the Ichthyovenator, but this time with its right skull horn. The Carnotaurus swings the Ichthyovenator to the side and lifts the fish hunter into the sky from its bullhorn before slamming the Ichthyovenator onto the ground. With no time to waste, the Carnotaurus swings its head down towards the Ichthyovenator and chomps at its neck with its knife-like teeth. The body of the Ichthyovenator goes flat as its jaw opens wide and its eyes go dark. The Carnotaurus looks up into the dusk sky and roars towards the Yellowstone Ranch. What was that? A much bigger roar can be heard coming over the top of the roar of the Carnotaurus. It can't be! There it is! Theropod! The Spinosaurus is here! The spiny lizard stomps through the conifer trees on the outside of the trail loop and onto the battlefield. The Spinosaurus stomps towards the Carnotaurus with so much power as it runs up to 18 miles per hour. The Spinosaurus lowers its head and slams its body into the Carnotaurus just like a cannonball. The Carnotaurus, with nearly no time to react, stumbles over the fallen body of the Ichthyovenator and falls to the ground. With its little arms, it has no way to brace itself for impact. The Spinosaurus begins to stomp forward. Look! The Ichthyovenator lifts its head from the ground towards its boss, the spiny lizard. Crush! No! The Spinosaurus just stomped onto the neck of the Ichthyovenator as it continues to stomp closer to the meat-eating bull. The theropod found in 2010 and known as the most complete Spinosaurid from Asia has now officially been eliminated. Does that mean the Carnotaurus has won? Is the meat-eating bull the winner? Quick, let's grab our herd and move it to the other side of this battle and closer to the farmhouses. Everyone, grab your safety flares. It's almost time. Boom! As the Spinosaurus nears the Carnotaurus, the meat-eating bull tries to get back up onto its feet, but the Spinosaurus instantly spins around and whips its fish-like tail against the body of the Carnotaurus. The meat-eating bull falls back into the field as it lays still in the cow pens. The Spinosaurus quickly stomps up to the Carnotaurus and roars into the Yellowstone moonlit sky. Now, everyone, release your safety flares. The night sky begins to light up like the 4th of July. Drool can be seen falling from the spiny lizard's crocodilian-like snout. Then, just like that, the Spinosaurus bites down onto the neck of the Carnotaurus. The Spinosaurus lifts up the body of the meat-eating bull with its massive strength before twisting its neck and tossing the Carnotaurus back onto the ground below. The motion of the Carnotaurus goes still. The meat-eating bull is out, and the theropod found back in 1984 has now been eliminated. The Spinosaurus looks up into the sky, now lit like fireworks by all the safety flares, and roars down into the Paradise Valley. The sound can be heard echoing across the ranch. Everyone, let's get this tour back into the stables. Go, go, go! This battle is over. Country roads, take me home. And now, for your Clash of the Dinosaur Champions Part 2 highlights. Wow, what a turn of events. Did anyone see that coming? We finally got to see the Spinosaurus aegypticus. But let's start from the beginning of it all. Right away, we met all 4 theropods as we went deep into the valley of the Yellowstone Ranch. The Spinosaurids quickly made it known that they were working together. The Spinosaurids would bring down that towering Acrocanthosaurus before the Carnotaurus would return to the battlefield only to eliminate the Baryonyx. Then as the battle moved along the river and towards the mountainside, we found the Ichthyovenator meeting with a much higher power before the battle went up Bunker Hill and into the cow pens. When we reached the open fields, we had a true prehistoric cage match between two mighty theropods. Both dinosaurs each had chances to become the champion, but it would be the Ceratosaurus, known as the meat-eating bull, that would strike an almost fatal blow to the Ichthyovenator. But then suddenly, in a sudden twist of events, the Spinosaurus would return to the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast after so many disruptions over the last 4 Prehistoric Cage Match episodes. Who would have guessed that the Spinosaurus would show up today to leave such havoc in our Clash of the Dinosaur Champions Part 2? And now, technically, your second undisputed Dinosauria Champion of the world, the meat-eating bull, the Carnotaurus! But wait! Or should I say, the spiny lizard, the Spinosaurus! What did everyone think about this ultimate prehistoric cage match, the Clash of the Dinosaur Champions Part 2? I'm just so confused. What are we all going to do about this? We can't end the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast this way, but it was truly a prehistoric battle for the ages down in the famous Yellowstone Ranch. I can't believe how well it turned out. I am simply speechless. It was just so much fun. What was that? What's going on? You guys, this just in. We have just heard from the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and an open challenge has been issued to no one other than the Spinosaurus. Here we go, you guys. It appears we're going to have a rematch. Can you believe it? Our next episode is going to be the final matchup of the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast. It's the ultimate endgame. It's going to be the KPG Showdown. It's the Tyrannosaurus Rex versus the Spinosaurus. It's going to be the biggest, the baddest, and the greatest episode of my podcast journey. Now that's a wrap for today, everyone. This next week I'm taking my family on a Disney cruise down to Florida, to the Caribbean, in the Bahamas, and Castaway Cay. It's just gonna be so much fun. Also, let me whisper this one for you guys. Don't tell my kids, but my wife and I are going to surprise them with a day at Universal Studios before we board the Disney Wish cruise ship. You can guess I'll be taking a ride on the Jurassic World River Adventure and riding on the Velocicoaster. I'm also planning on bringing my laptop with me so that I can begin to write the KPG Showdown while I am 40,000 feet up into the sky with all the pterosaurs and while I'm relaxing on the beach with all those Sebastian-like crustaceans. Well, until we meet again, my name is Dinosaur Ranger Anthony, your prehistoric cowboy, for today's battle at the Prehistoric Yellowstone Ranch, and as always, keep digging for dinosaurs. Yeehaw!